I love mock drafts. I'm into them. About every 2 weeks, I bring a former scout on, and we did one yesterday. You only do a couple, if I recall, just two. You just released one. Why do you only do two?
All right, so I never do a mock draft before the combine in a typical year, and I always wait till after free agency because you can't determine what a team is going to do without knowing what their needs are. And then I look at my mock draft differently. There are some really good scouts and guys who grind the tape. Daniel Jeremiah, I think, is one of the best in the business. He watches the tape. He plays with a scout's mind and says, here's what I would do. I don't do that. I don't watch tape. I have no interest in watching tape. I use my phone, Colin, and I text everyone I know in the league. My first mock draft is kind of like putting it out there in the ether and seeing what happens. The amount of texts that I get from people around the league the day after that mock draft comes out helps me formulate my thoughts, my information, and steers me ways. The amount of coaches that texted me and said, you're way off on this one, or you're wrong on that one, that wouldn't have responded until I put the first mock draft out with that information really is telling. Here was what I did with the top 10. And Joy, I know you're getting skewered by Dolphins fans for even suggesting that Tua Tagovailoa is not going to win 5 Super Bowls and 16 MVPs. I'm getting skewered by Dolphins fans because I've got Kyle Pitts not going at 6th overall. So you say, well, why don't you? Well, tight ends don't go that high. We could talk about that. But I use the information I get from other teams, and many of them saying, guy, I don't know if Pitts is even going to be there at 6. He's that highly valued. I have another team that called me and was like, you got to put Pitts higher. That's the stuff I do. I use intelligence from other teams and sources, and I trust what I got. And I usually do end up with a pretty accurate mock draft when it's all said and done. But here's top 10 from yesterday. And Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, and yes, I've got Mac Jones going 3 to San Francisco, as I have since they made the trade.
So in the last 24 hours, like I thought you had Kyle Pitts a spot low. In the last 24 hours, what have you learned? The biggest thing you've learned?
Yeah, biggest thing I learned is that it is not a slam dunk that this quarterback is going to go in this order. There's a lot of feedback, and a lot of people seem to say, well, I think Lance makes more sense for San Francisco. It's a bigger long-term project, but you don't need to do that with Garoppolo. But other people say I like Fields not only more than I like Mac Jones, but I like Fields more than Zach Wilson. It's wide open. I think the quarterbacks, we go chalk here. We're like, all right, well, the mock drafts say Lawrence, Wilson, Mac Jones, that's it. I don't think that's the case just yet. It's what I've got, but my feedback is telling me this thing is wide open. And the fact that John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan aren't just sitting on their hands right now, but they're actually going to Ohio State to go work out Justin Fields again tells me it's not a slam dunk that Mac Jones is that number 3 guy.
Okay, so I agree with this. You have New England moving up to the number 4 spot. So one of the things I've learned through the years, and I guess any fan could figure this out, when a team wants to do business, nobody gets hurt if they just leak, we want to do business. And so when Atlanta leaks the story, and they did probably, which is, hey, we're taking calls now. They're just telling everybody, call us. We're interested. Some teams are more connected than others, so you got to make it easy for them. Hey, everybody, we'll leak a story. We want calls. So why New England moving up to 4, and why now?
Yeah, it's a great question. And Colin, I got a lot of feedback on this one too, obviously, because New England's one of those teams people raise their eyebrows and say, wow, well, first Atlanta, you're at the 4th pick. They just restructured Matt Ryan's contract, but they didn't restructure it in a way where they're out of that contract. They're going to be paying him a lot of money for the next 3 years, whether it's salary cap money they're paying or it's dead cap money. So I don't think they're going quarterback just yet. That said, the Patriots, they never want to be this high in the draft again. The last time they were this high in the draft, I think it was Gerard Mayo in 2008 who they took in the top 10. That's how long it's been. They're not used to being 15, and yet being at 15 isn't high enough to get one of these quarterbacks the way this thing is going to play out. So I've got New England, who have been aggressive all offseason, saying, let's nip this in the bud. Let's get one of these guys. It might not be their first pick, Justin Fields. They might like Mac Jones more. They might like Zach Wilson more. But let's get one of these guys, and let's finally start developing one of these young quarterbacks and it being one of these elite prospects. They don't plan on ever being in the top 10. They don't plan on ever being in the top 15 again. They wouldn't have spent all this money in free agency. They're aggressive right now, and I think the aggressor gets rewarded with big plays when they actually have to go out and get it. I don't think this is the same Belichick of years prior where it's let's just sit around and wait and get these guys and rely on compensatory picks in the 3rd round. No, I think Bill could be very aggressive this time, and I think if he likes Fields, which I'm not sure, I could tell you on the record, I don't know his thoughts on Justin Fields, but if he likes him, this is the year they're going to open and get him. They're not going to have that 15th pick too often.
You know, I was talking to Joy about the Sam Darnold thing before you came on. I'm sure you were listening to it as we were going to bring you on. Is that the college quarterback draft? My scouts are all saying the same thing. It's bad next year. This year's great. Yeah. If Trey Lance is your fourth best prospect this year, I mean, the Niners may like Mac Jones. He could be your fifth. That's a good quarterback draft. Next year's not good. It's injured guys. It's hot and cold guys. There's no huge arms in it. And I said to myself, when Carolina got Darnold, what they were telling you was, we don't know if it's going to work, but the environment's better here. You don't have to pay Sam a fortune. And what we don't want to do is get trapped next year. So take me through a little bit, because you are so connected to the Jets. The Jets, the Darnold, Carolina, how it played out, and maybe Carolina's thinking.
Carolina made no secret about it. They were very interested in Matt Stafford. I think they were very interested in Deshaun Watson before that thing went haywire. And I think they knew that with the 8th overall pick in this year's draft, there's a chance they get left out of the dance, and that there's 4 teams or maybe even 5 that get quarterbacks before them. So when this thing came to, the compensation was discussed. They basically told the Jets, this is what we're willing to give up. We would love Sam Darnold. But let me tell you something. It's not like Carolina saying we're trading for Sam Darnold and he's the quarterback of the future and here's a $100 million extension. It was a low-risk investment for them. They did not give up an 8th overall pick. They did not give up their 2nd-round pick. They gave up next year's 2nd-round pick, which is a great unknown. And they're only paying him $11 million per year over the next 2 years.
Yeah.
This is a no-brainer for Carolina. But it also doesn't mean they won't take a quarterback at 8. And that might cause mass hysteria on draft day. But if Trey Lance is a guy they like, or Justin Fields is a guy they like, and for whatever reason those guys start slipping, you're right, Colin. The next year's quarterback class, and who knows? I mean, Zach Wilson came out of nowhere this year. We could have one of those deals this coming draft class too, and there might be that guy. But you don't want to be drafting in the top 3 or 4 to have to get a quarterback. So it was almost security for Carolina to just go and get Darnold. They know he can play. They know that he's got an upside, and they know that they can at least audition him for a year before giving him the huge extension. But the truth of the matter is, Colin, I don't think this is a slam dunk that they're saying Sam Darnold's our quarterback of the future. He's the quarterback for now. It's quarterback for now until the next 3 weeks, unless a quarterback falls to them at 8 that they really love.
All right, let's look at Peter Schrager's mock draft again, which has been accurate through the years. He's got quarterbacks going 1, 2, 3, and 4, and Atlanta moving out. It all makes sense to me. Like the Penei Sewell move makes a ton of sense to me because the weakness for Carolina is left tackle and corner. So sometimes you get very lucky in the draft. Well, what you need just happens to be available. By the way, and I agree with Atlanta on this. What Atlanta needs is really not available at 4. They need Micah Parsons. They need defensive players. They're a mess. So, yeah. Now, by the way, you have New England going up to 4.
Yep.
Couple minutes left. If New England doesn't go up, do your sources tell you there's another team to keep your eye on for 4?
I think Denver's a possibility to move up. They're at 9 right now. As you see, I've got them getting Trey Lance, who slips to them, but who knows? Maybe they like someone there. They can move up there. I would always keep an eye on Chicago, who took a major swing at Russell Wilson and did not land him and could still be in the market if there's someone willing to trade up or trade back with them. I would look at New England, and then I would look for the teams that might not want a quarterback at 4, but might want Kyle Pitts at 4, which sounds crazy. We have never had a tight end in the last 60 years of the NFL be drafted in the top 5. But the way people are talking about this guy as if he's some sort of unicorn, unlike anything we've ever seen, 6'6", out of Florida, has all the talent in the world. You know, I never value the tight end position in the draft, and I think it's because if these guys are free agents, they don't make nearly the same money as offensive tackle and defensive end and quarterback. So why would I draft one so high? But the way that the NFL responded to this mock draft with text to my phone saying, how could you have Pitts slip to 7? It is as if this Kyle Pitts is already Tony Gonzalez or Shannon Sharp. It is hype that I have never seen before from a tight end coming out of college. And yet, if a team falls in love that much, he might be the guy someone trades up to Atlanta to go grab.
By the way, I said this yesterday. Dallas Cowboys have 10 picks. Would Dallas give up a pick or 2, get Pitts, which, by the way, would make McCarthy and Dak better, it'd validate Dak's contract, that's for sure, and then they could use another 7 picks on their defense. I talked to somebody yesterday, texted him, and he said if Jerry loves somebody, it is being discussed now in their boardrooms about moving up to get Pitts.
Dallas was set on a guy named Kaylavon Chason at LSU, a defensive end last year. I had it from good sources. They were set. The day of the draft, CeeDee Lamb starts slipping, and it was within 2 minutes. He said, we got to take CeeDee Lamb. They didn't go through the depth charts. They didn't ask questions. CeeDee Lamb was the guy. If Jerry wants someone, you have to restrain him really hard, especially on offense, to not take him. So if Kyle Pitts were to slip or if they thought they could trade up, nothing's off the table with Jerry Jones.
Peter Schrager. We just savored that meal with Peter
That's
Schrager.
awesome.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from The Herd or go watch a few segments from other shows on FS1.